All right, let's dive in. Today, we are taking a visual journey through one of the most action-packed chapters in the entire Gospel of Luke, chapter 9. This thing has it all. We're talking a high-stakes mission, a miracle that defies logic, and a mind-blowing revelation on top of a mountain. We're going to walk through it scene by scene so you can really see how this incredible story unfolds.
So, let's start with this question. What happens when you give completely ordinary people extraordinary power? Because that's exactly what kicks off this entire chapter. Jesus is about to send his disciples on a mission that's not only going to test their limits, but will actually make a king nervous. This is way more than just a story. It's a real-world test of faith, and the stakes could not be higher.
So, no slow build-up here. We are thrown right into the action. Jesus calls his 12 closest followers together. But this isn't for a class or a lecture. Oh no, this is a briefing for a mission. He's about to give them a real taste of his own power, but there's a catch. They're going to have to face some pretty intense challenges along the way.
And this is the moment right here in verses 1 and 2. Jesus isn't just handing them a to-do list. He's literally giving them a piece of his own authority. Just picture it. He's looking at each one of them, these fishermen, a tax collector, regular guys, and he's commissioning them. He's giving them power over demons and diseases, telling them to go out and preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. He's basically saying, look, this work is too big for just one person. It's your turn. Go show the world what the kingdom is all about.
And then he gives them the rules for the road, and honestly, they're kind of crazy. Verse 3, he tells them, take nothing for your journey. No walking stick, no bag, no bread, not even any money. This is all about radical trust. They have to depend completely on God and the kindness of strangers. Then, in verses 4 and 5, he tells them what to do if they're rejected. If a town doesn't welcome them, they are to leave and physically shake the dust off their feet. Now, in that culture, this was a huge deal. It was a powerful symbolic act that basically said, we offered you God's peace, you turned it down, so we're leaving you to it. We're moving on completely.
And you know what? This mission works. It makes some serious waves. In fact, verses 7 through 9 tell us the news spreads so far it reaches King Herod himself. Now try to imagine his court. It's probably filled with suspicion, paranoia, whispers in the hallways. This is the same Herod who had John the Baptist killed, and now he's hearing about these disciples performing miracles. His guilty conscience is going wild. He says, John I beheaded, but who is this? You can just feel the fear in his voice. The disciples' work didn't just touch a few small villages, it actually rattled a king on his throne.
Okay, so the disciples get back from their mission, and they are buzzing. They're full of stories about everything that happened. Jesus tries to take them away to a quiet place to kind of debrief, but the crowds are just relentless. They find out where he's going, and they follow him. And before you know it, they're all out in the middle of nowhere, thousands of people, and the sun is starting to set. A very real, very big problem is starting to emerge. Everybody's hungry. You can just feel that tension start to build.
And this is where all that confidence the disciples just gained kind of hits a brick wall. Verses 12 to 14 lay it out. They look at this massive crowd, 5,000 men, and that's not even counting the women and kids. And then they look down at what they have. 5 loaves of bread, 2 small fish. The difference between the problem and their resources is just ridiculous. You can practically hear the panic in their voices when they say to Jesus, hey, send the crowd away so they can find some food. But Jesus, he has a totally different plan.
So Jesus tells everyone to sit down. He takes that tiny little meal, he gives thanks for it, and then he starts breaking it. And he breaks it, and he gives it to the disciples to hand out. And it just keeps coming. It never runs out. Everybody eats. And not just a little snack, they eat until they are completely full. But the real exclamation point on this whole miracle comes in verse 17. After everyone's finished, they go around and collect the leftovers. And you know how much is left? 12 full baskets. It's not just a sign of crazy abundance. It's also incredibly meaningful. 12 baskets, one for each of the 12 disciples who had doubted. And of course, the number 12 represents the 12 tribes of Israel. It's this beautiful picture of God completely providing for all of his people.
Now, the story takes a sudden turn. We go from the roar of this huge crowd and this massive public miracle to an intensely quiet and personal moment. All those thousands of people are gone. Now it's just Jesus and his inner circle. And he's about to ask them the single most important question they've faced on their journey so far.
He starts off by kind of testing the waters. He asks them, so who do the crowds say that I am? And in verse 19, the disciples start listing off all the rumors and theories that are flying around. Some people think he's John the Baptist, somehow back from the dead. Others think he's a legendary prophet like Elijah, returned to earth. It's pretty clear that people are fascinated, they're confused, but nobody has really put the pieces together yet.
And then he pivots. He looks right past all the rumors, all the public opinion, and he looks directly at them. He makes it personal. But who do you say that I am? You can imagine the silence after that question. This isn't about what other people think anymore. This is about what they believe.
And in that silence, Peter steps up, and with total clarity, he just cuts through all the noise and speculation. He says, "The Christ of God." Now, that wasn't just some title. That was a world-changing statement. The Christ means the Anointed One, the Messiah that the Jewish people have been waiting for centuries to come and save them. For Peter to say that, it was this massive declaration of faith. And it's the moment this whole chapter, and really their whole journey with him, pivots.
But right after this incredible high point, this amazing revelation, Jesus immediately brings them crashing right back down to earth. He explains that being the Christ isn't what they think it is. It's not about some glorious political victory. Verses 22 through 26 lay out this absolutely shocking path. He tells them he's going to suffer, be rejected by the leaders, and ultimately be killed. And then he says, if you want to follow me, well, you have to deny yourself, pick up your own cross every single day, and be willing to lose your life to find it. It's a brutal, sobering reality check right after their big breakthrough. After that really heavy talk about suffering and crosses and death, you can just imagine the disciples feeling, well, probably pretty confused and overwhelmed. But just like he did with that tiny lunch, Jesus is about to show them that there's way more to the story than just the suffering. He's about to give his inner circle an absolutely breathtaking glimpse of the glory that's on the other side of the cross. And it happens in the most dramatic way you can imagine, on top of a mountain.
This whole scene plays out like something from a movie. Verse 28 says it's about 8 days later. Jesus takes Peter, John, and James up a mountain with him to pray. And verse 29 says that as he's praying, this incredible transformation happens. His face starts to shine, and his clothes become as bright as a flash of lightning, just dazzling white. And then, suddenly, two of the most legendary figures from Israel's history, Moses, who gave the law, and Elijah, the greatest of the prophets, they just appear and start talking with him. And if that wasn't enough, a cloud comes down and covers them, and this voice, a voice that is clearly not human, booms from the cloud and says, "This is my son, whom I have chosen, listen to him." It's this unbelievable, divine confirmation of everything Peter had just confessed.
But you can't stay on the mountaintop forever. The very next day, they come back down, and the whiplash from divine glory to human brokenness is immediate, and it is jarring. I mean, they just saw a piece of heaven touch the earth, and now they're walking straight back into the messy, desperate, real-world problems down below.
Right at the bottom of the mountain, they walk into total chaos. There's a father begging for help for his son, who's being tormented by a spirit. And in verse 40, the man says to Jesus, with total desperation in his voice, "I begged your disciples to drive it out, but they could not." So the 9 disciples who stayed behind, even with the power Jesus had given them, they were completely powerless here. And then Jesus steps in. With one single authoritative command, he rebukes the spirit, heals the boy, and gives him back to his father. The contrast could not be clearer. Their power had limits, but his had none.
Now, you'd think, after seeing a divine transfiguration and a powerful healing, the disciples would be feeling pretty humble. But they're still human. In verse 46, it says they almost immediately get into an argument about which one of them is the greatest. And this table just shows how Jesus completely flips their entire way of thinking on its head. They ask, who's the greatest? Jesus brings a little child over and says the greatest is the one who is the least like this child. Then they say, hey, we saw someone who wasn't in our group casting out demons. Should we stop them? And Jesus says, no. Whoever is not against us is for us. He is constantly turning their human, worldly values completely upside down.
And now we come to the final act of this chapter. Verse 51 uses this really intense phrase. It says, Jesus steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. This isn't just about a new travel destination. This is a shift in focus, in intensity. This is the point of no return. The journey is now laser-focused on one place, Jerusalem. And the true cost of following him is about to get crystal clear. And that new intensity gets tested right away. They try to pass through a Samaritan village. And remember, Samaritans and Jews were historic enemies, and the village refuses to welcome them. Well, James and John are furious. In verse 54, they actually ask Jesus, Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them? I mean, they are ready to use their God-given power for revenge. But Jesus turns and sharply rebukes them. He makes it absolutely clear. His mission is to save lives, not destroy them. It's a huge lesson in how power is supposed to be used. As Jesus keeps walking, a few people come up and they seem really eager to follow him. But they all have these but first requests.
And on the surface, they sound completely reasonable. One guy says, I'll follow you, but first, let me go and bury my father. Another wants to go say a proper goodbye to his family. I mean, these aren't bad things at all. But Jesus' responses are shockingly direct. He's showing them that the urgency of this mission to Jerusalem is so great, it has to come before even our most important family duties. There is simply no time for but first.
And the whole chapter ends with this powerful, unforgettable image from verse 62. Jesus says, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." Just picture a farmer plowing a field. To make a straight line, a straight furrow, you have to fix your eyes on a point way ahead of you and never look away. The second you look back, the plow veers off and the whole row gets crooked. It's a brilliant picture of what this journey is like. It requires total, forward-looking focus. And it leaves all of us with a really challenging question. What are the things we keep looking back at that might be making our own rows crooked?